Hello everybody and welcome back to the video lecture series on microprocessors and microcontrollers. This is lecture 8 of our course, unit 3. In this today's lecture, we will be talking about external communication interfaces which can be made to a 8051 system. Okay. We'll also have a brief recap of what we have seen in the previous class. What exactly we have seen in the last two classes is about the onboard communications which are generally used for communicating the different modules on the 8051 system. But whereas you see what we'll be discussing in today's lecture, that is RS-232 and USB, these are used for communicating external devices to the 8051 system. I'm talking about 8051 system. It can be any other system also. Any computing system can use these external interfaces for communicating to other external devices. So as I said, let us have a brief recap of what we have seen in the last class. That is about this I2C bus we have seen, followed by this SPI bus and UART. All these three are the different ways of communicating between the different onboard modules. Okay, or we can say a computer motherboard or a embedded system hardware where it contains a microcontroller and other all peripherals. These all devices can communicate with each other by using these different type of communications as mentioned. I2C starting with, we have discussed that it is a two-line or two-wire type of a communication protocol. Here it has only one serial line and only one line for communicating the data. So it is a type of a half duplex type of communication because there is only one line which will carry the data. So one way of communication can take place at a time. So either the master will send the data to slave or slave can send back the data to the master at a time. So it's a half duplex type of a system and it's a serial synchronous serial communication. Okay, this is a packet structure. What we can see in the message structure in the I2C protocol, which always has a start condition. Then they followed by the address frame will be there, and data frames will follow that one afterwards. And you see that after every frame communication, there will be an acknowledgement from the receiving side to the sending side for indicating that it has received the frame, whether it be address frame or a data frame. This is a general bus configuration using I2C. You can see that we are having an embedded system example where two microcontrollers are there and few other peripherals are there, and how they are connected to each other via this I2C type of lines, SDA and SCL. Next, what we have discussed is SPI. As we know that in I2C we are having a problem or challenge that the addressing is required for the master to initiate a communication to slave. So that addressing, sending an address frame takes some time and which reduces the speed of communication there. So we have an alternative that solution in this SPI that it does not require to do that activity and the speed of communication can increase by having this slave select line instead of that one. And another feature in SPI we have seen that it is having MOSI line and MISO lines. These two lines are used for providing a full duplex type of communication where MOSI will make the data transfer from master side to slave side because it is master out and slave in. And whenever the slave wants to transmit the data and the master receives, that time the data will be sent out on MISO, that is a master in and slave out. Serial clock is obviously there here, which makes this serial communication also asynchronous. And this chip select or slave select will make that the time of the data transfer more faster when compared to I2C because it will not be having a work to be done as communicating the address of the slave. So directly whichever the slave the master wants to talk to, that can be invoked by sending a slave select signal low for that particular slave. This type of connection we have seen, the one master having multiple slave selects and individual slave selects are connected to the individual slaves. But sometimes due to line limitations, we will not be having more number of slave selects. So that time this daisy chain type of connection can be used in providing the SPI communication. Another onboard communication what we have seen is UART. It is again a full duplex type of communication, but this time it is not synchronous. It is an asynchronous type of serial communication. It has only two lines, TX and RX. So UART1 TX is connected to UART2's RX. And likewise, the transmitter from the UART2 will be connected to the receiving side of the UART1. As I said, it is an asynchronous type of communication. So here the regulating of the communication can be done by the UART, the transmitting UART, which will initiate the sending condition and the receiving condition. So you can check it out, this packet structure, which will be used for initiating and the beginning and the end of the communication. So start bits will be there. It also has a parity bit available in this one, which will make the communication secure in the way that if there is an error while receiving, it can be identified by that parity check. The transmitter's duty to indicate the end of the communication. These are a few examples. Last time also we have seen how the UART is used and how it is unique and different from SPI and I2C. As you can see that SPI and I2C and SPI, they are the communication protocols, bus protocols only, whereas the UART has a protocol and also it has a dedicated circuit along with it to establish a UART communication between two modules. Okay, you can see that nowadays many of the embedded system different modules such as GPS, GSM, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, these all different modules will be communicated with the 8051 using this UART type of communication. And unlike this SPI and I2C, it provides only single master, single slave, or I can say there is no master slave type of communication. Here it is only one-to-one communication. So two devices can communicate with each other using this UART communication. Whereas in I2C, we have seen that there can be multiple master, multiple slaves. In SPI, we can see we have seen that there is one master and multiple slave. But in UART, there is only one-to-one communication. So one device can communicate with the other device only on one-on-one basis. So that was about the previous lecture what we have seen, and following to this, we have talked about the external communication interfaces which we have discussed now. That is RS-232 standards, and then followed by that one is USB type of communications we have to check. Earlier discussed communication protocols and systems were used for onboard modules to communicate within themselves, and this discussed further interfaces, that is RS-232 or USB. They are used for communicating the system with external devices. So starting with this RS-232, you can see that it's an interfacing standard. It was set up very long back in 1960s by this Electronic Industries Association, and this was again established and set up before the TTL came into existence. So that is why here the logic levels of this RS-232 will be quite clear to see. That for logic 1 it uses the voltages -3 to -25, and for logic 0 it uses the voltages +3 to +25, and in between that -3 to +3, that is the undefined voltage levels. This is a typical basic DB25 type of an RS-232 connector. It has 25 lines, as the name also indicates, and these all lines can be seen here. But anyhow, we will not be going to detailedly study this one, as we will be studying the simpler version of that one, the RS-232 connector, which is called as DB9. We shall go to that one, but let us have a brief understanding about these pins also. So as you can see, there are some pins in this one as unassigned, so they are not given any task or assigned for any signal. Few other pins are reserved, specifically pin number 9 and 10 are reserved for data testing. And here, this particular RS-232 connector provides a primary and secondary type of transmissions of serial data between the two devices. So that is why you will be finding that means TX transmitter of data, receiver data, and similarly there will be a secondary transmitter, secondary receiver also in this one. And along with this one, which will be having many other handshaking signals such as request to send, data carrier detect, okay, clear to send, and all. About this all handshaking signals we'll be elaborately discussing just after seeing the DB9 connections. The simplified version of this RS-232 connector you can see. So talking about DB9 connector, you can see that these are DB9 connector availability. And one more important thing you have to always remember about this pin numbering of the RS-232. It is not as usual what we have in the IC pin numbers, where suppose if it is a 16-pin IC, pin numbers 1 to 8 will be on one side, and pin number 9 will be just opposite to 8. But here in this RS-232 type of connectors, pin numbering will be on one side. Will be having, from suppose in this example DB9 you can see here, 1 to 5 are on the one side, and pin number 6 is opposite to 1 instead of being opposite to 5. So that is the pin numbering difference here. You can check it out. Now let us talk about the different pins in this DB9 connectors. Specifically, more important for us will be the TXT, RXT, and ground. So that you can check it out. The pin numbers your 2 is RXT, 3 is TXT, and your ground is pin number 5. They are very much important lines. Just by having these three connections also we can establish the RS-232 communication between two devices. There obviously will be not taking care of the handshaking signals, but if you require the proper handshaking and all the things should be properly regulated between the two devices for the communication, then we'll be using this all handshaking signals. As you can see, data carrier detect, which is pin number 1 here. Next to that one, pin number 4, you can check it out. It is DTR, data terminal ready. Then we'll be having this pin number 6 as data set ready. Then we are having request to send, clear to send, and ring indicator. So these all pins one by one will be checking out in detail what exactly they are, what this handshaking signals are, and how to work with them. Just to before to go into that study of the pins, different pins, what we have just now listed, we check that one. But before that one, we let us understand that how the data communication takes place using this RS-232. So RS-232, as I said earlier also, it is used for communicating to devices, external devices, okay, or external device communicating to a computer, or two computers communicating with each other. When I'm using the word computer, it means 8051 based system in this our terminologies, as we are discussing 8051 microcontrollers interfacing here. Now, these two terminologies has to be very clear with you. One is DTE and other is DCE, as mentioned here. DTE is the data terminal equipment. Generally, this is a computing system or where the CPU lies in, like 8051 based embedded system. Here is one example, or a computer. Any microprocessor based computer is another example of DTE. Whereas this DCE are the modem devices. Okay, they are just generally will be acting as a communication devices between two computing devices. So example is a modem here in this case. Now, whenever we want to establish a communication between two computing devices, one computer and another microcontroller based system, if it is, the simplest possible way is connecting these three lines, that is TXD, RXD and ground. So TXD of one side will be connected to the RXD of the other side, and their ground, that is pin number 5, will be connected to each other to have a common voltage levels. So here DTE stands for data terminal equipment. That will be generally your microcontroller based system in our point of study here. Talking about the different pins of RS-232, that is data terminal ready. As I told you earlier, whenever the terminal is turned on, whenever the computing device is turned on, that device will send a signal upon this DTR line to indicate that it is ready for the communication. Similar thing will be there with the modem devices, where DCE devices, data communication equipments, when they are turned on, they will be sending a signal, or they will be asserting the signal DSR. Okay, that is your data set ready. That indicates that it is ready to communicate, that DCE device. Next thing, what will be having this RTS, request to send. Whenever the DTE device has a byte to transmit and it is ready to transmit that one, it will send a request to send to the data communication devices or the other side data terminal equipment on the receiving side, whoever it is there. So transmitter will tell that I want to request to send the data. Next to this, we are having clear to send, and whenever the modem has a room for storing the data, it will indicate to the DTE devices that it is clear to send. It can send the data. So as in earlier case, request to send was sent from the DTE device to the DCE device or the DTE device for requesting that whether it can send the data or not. Now, in response to that one, whether acknowledgement is that you can send the data, for that purpose, this clear to send signal is used by the receiving side, that the transmitter can send the data here. Next to that one, we are having this DCD, data carrier detect. Generally, whenever it is assessed, the modem generally asserts this DCD signal to inform the DTE that there is a valid carrier is being detected at that particular terminal, that is of the device, DCE device. Okay, and that the modem can establish the communication for that. Another is ring indicator. Here it is an output from the modem, and it is connected to the input of an PC to indicate that there is a telephone ring. The telephone is ringing. As you can see, this technologies were used very earlier for establishing the communication between the data terminal and data communication devices. Where communication devices, as I said, that type of modem or something, which generally gives a ringing indication for the data being transmitted there. So it will be generally going on and off for synchronizing with the rings when that particular device is ringing there. How our 8051 can be connected to a RS-232 connector? As we know that our 8051 already has a UART on it, TXD and RXD pins are available. But this TXD and RXD pins, their logic level output or input will be logic 0 and logic 1 of TTL logic, which is in the range of 0 to 5 volts. Okay. But here, when we talk about the RS-232, its voltage levels are, as we have seen earlier also, -3 to -25 for logic 1 and +3 to +25 for logic 0. So they are completely different. If we connect this TTL, any TTL device with the RS-232 type of voltages, that TTL device will not respond, or actually it may get even damaged due to that heavy voltages there. So to avoid that one, we must be having one leveled translator type of a device where generally it is called as a line driver in this case. MAX 232 is one IC, one chip, which is generally used for this logic level translator, okay, or line driver. You can see here that it requires a driver to make then RS-232 compatible. To make that any computing device 8051 type of one system, to make it compatible with RS-232, you require a MAX 232 type of a LAN driver is connected in between them. I'll show you the connection also to make you understand in the coming slide. So here is the basic communication, how it can be established, or basic interface, how it can be established between 8051 and RS-232 connector. You can see that here we are having our 8051 and there is your DB9 RS-232 connector. In between these two, we are having this MAX 232 IC. And the terminals of MAX 232 IC, you can see here, it's a pin diagram of MAX 232 IC. As you can see, pin number 11, 12, and 13, 14, these are used of MAX 232 for providing the communication for this 8051 compatibility for RS-232. Okay, that you can check it out. The pin number 11 is T in and your pin number 14 is T out. So it will take the logics, TTL logics coming from the TXT of 8051 and translates into that logic levels of your RS-232 at pin number 14. Similarly, that pin number 12 and 13 will do it for the RXT pin of 805. So this is how this RS-232 is been connected and interfaced with the 8051 using this MAX 232 as a mediator. But there is a problem with this MAX 232 on board. You can see that there is a number of capacitors are connected here. So to avoid that one, some designers choose another 9 driver IC called as MAX 233. This will avoid that requirement of that capacitors to be used here. So MAX 232 performs the same job as MAX 232 is performed. 33 and 32 both perform the same job, but it eliminates this 233 eliminates the requirement of that capacitors to be connected. And one more thing to be noted is that they are not pin compatible. As earlier in the case we have seen in the MAX 232 that pin number 11, 12, 13, 14 of the MAX 232 are used for connecting the TXD and RXD of 8051 to the RS-232 connector. But when we use MAX 233, pin numbers are a little bit different. You can check it out, 2, 3, 4, 5 are used instead of 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is how the 8051 is being interfaced with the RS-232. Next, we should talk about USB. Now, obviously, RS-232 is very old-fashioned and very old technology of communicating, even though it has a very much users nowadays also. But slowly, as the technology is evolving, we are we will be seeing that in the future, or already we can see few examples now that RS-232 type of connectors are slowly decreasing in computing devices, and it's a little bit less used. And this is all because of this emerging technology in the fast serial communications or external device communications. And best example of that one is USB. Okay, and I am sure that all of you are very much aware about the USB type of an interface. We all connect our different devices, flash drives, mouse, and many other things to our computer using USB. Okay, and we have our USB micro USB slots on our mobile phones for charging. Okay, different C type of USBs are also available nowadays, which provides a very fast rate of charging and all that. We'll talk about these all different USBs. Let us have a brief understanding about what exactly this USB means. USB stands for Universal Serial Bus. It's a set of interface specifications for a high-speed wired communications between the electronic system peripherals devices, specifically a computing device with an external device. Okay, we see that we connect our pen drive or flash drives with the computer using USB. One example of that one I can see, where that flash drive is an external memory device, whereas a computer device is an one system, and the system communicates with an external device using USB in this case. USB sends in the data in the serial mode. Okay, that means the parallel data will be first serialized and then they will be sent out on this USB channel. So what exactly USB is? As I said already, we have seen the abbreviation that USB is Universal Serial Bus. It provides an expandable, fast, bidirectional, low-cost, pluggable, okay, play serial hardware interfaces. It allows the users to conduct a wide variety of peripherals to computer and have them automatically be configured and ready to be used. As we see that sometimes we connect a new USB devices, our system indicates that drivers have been installed for this device to start working. So it ready to use, automatically configurable. Okay, these are some things what is makes this USB special. Implemented to provide the replacement for legacy ports to make the addition of peripheral devices quick and faster. Like in RS-232, we have seen that many pins will be there. The simplest form also has that RX and the ground to be connected, and many other different communication protocols similar to this. Older ones were slower when compared to the USBs. USBs are very fast serial communication type of interfaces. Okay, it's a history of this all USB. It all started long back. You can check it out. In the 1990s, it has all started. The USB 1.0 was there. Then it will evolve to USB 2.0. Most of the current working USB computers will be having this 2.0 and 3.0. Anyhow, 3.2 and USB 4 also are available in the market. And in the coming future, we may see further developments in the USB, which is continuously evolving, and the speed of communications are evolving at a very high rate. So pre-releases of USB, we have seen that in 1996 was that USB 1 was released, actually on 1995. But before that one also the development was there. 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 and 0.99 were released in different years from 1994 to 1995. Different months of 1994 to 1995. What is specific about the USB 3.2? It's a super speed plus type of USB. Okay, USB 3.2 is twice as fast as its previous version, that is was USB 3.1. Okay, the clock transfer rate, the speed of that USB 3.2 is up to 20 gigabits per second. Okay, then we have this USB 4, which is current technology in the USBs. You can see that its communication speeds are even more double than the USB 3.2, that is 40 gigabits per second it can communicate with. The architecture defines here the method of achieving a single high-speed link between the multiple devices and types. So that is one of the features of that USB 4. We shall talk about this USB 3.2 and USB 4 further more detail, but before that, let us see a specific features of USB 4 here. USB 4, it uses this USB-C type of cable. Okay, C type of cable, the connector things I will show you just immediately after this. Different connectors I will show you, type A, type B, type C. Okay, up to 40 gigabits per second the data transfer rates are here, as I have told you. Multiple data and display protocols are there in USB 4. USB 4 actually. So we can find that multiple devices can be connected, and it has all the features of USB 3.2 already in it. So, and one more important feature is that it's backward compatible. USB 4 maintains the compatibility with the previous versions of USB. So like that USB, one side you have a USB 4 terminal, you can connect a USB 3 there or USB 2 there. Okay, but the type matching is required. Type matching USB 4, when you see type C, you can use a USB 3.2 port for connecting that USB 4 terminal. There is available, because USB 3.2 was available in the port C, Type C type of connector. Type C type of connector is there in the USB 3.2 also. Here, the video and data bandwidth are optimized in this USB 4. Okay. Another feature of the USB 4 is that 100 watts charging it provides. So power charging also can is the one of the applications where these USBs are used. USB is 1 and USB 2.0 were very slow. They were delivering up to 500 milliwatts, milliamperes of the current. Sorry, but when it comes to super speed USB, that is USB 3.2, it provided some amperes, that is 1.1 ampere or 1.5 amperes of current. Even this USB 4, you can see that it is further enhanced that thing by delivering a current up to 5 ampere hour. So it can provide 100 wattage charging with this USB 4. So USB connector properties, specifically the availability is there. Okay, the consumer products were available since 2010. I am talking about specifically the USB's 3.0 versions onwards. Earlier also they were available, but USB 3.0 times version times it has very widely available for all the consumer electronics. Usability. Okay, most connectors cannot be plugged in upside down, but specifically the USB Type C can be connected the either way. Okay, durability, you can say that the standard connections were designed to be very strong and robust. Compatibility, the two-way communication is also possible here in the USB 3.0. The full duplex type of communications were done by using the super speed USB 3.0 transfer. USB 3.2 and 4, they contains two set of data lines. That is TX RX pairs will be available twice. So that is using that one, their speed is been doubled. So it's parallelly using these two serial channels, it can communicate further faster. So all these different type of USB connectors, you can check it out: Type A, Type B, Type A mini, Type B mini. Then we will be having a Type A micro, Type B micro, and then finally Type C. So these all the different USB connectors, you can check it out. And I'm sure you might have seen all these by yourself also in physical nature. If not, these are the connectors available for you. One more difference was there between the USB Type A type of USBs which were used for USB 2.0 and USB 3.2 also. There the color code were used for differentiating the USB 2.0 Type A connector with the USB 3.2 3.0 Type A connector. In generally, USB 2.0 and USB 1.0 Type A will be having this color as white coded here. In this Type A, you can check it out, it is coded as white line. In the USB 3.0, that USB connector will be having a this blue colored code here. In this blue color, you can check it out for that connector. Black is also available. White and black are generally used for USB 1.0 and 2.0 Type A, and Type A USB 3.0 uses that color as blue. And obviously the USB 3.2 onwards, we have this Type C of the type of connector, which you can see at the bottom here, the last one. The different Type A, Type B connections, can check it out. Basic connections in the USB Type A and Type B, it contains only 4 lines. You can check it out: VCC and ground, pin number 1 and 4 it is, and in between that one your data plus and data minus. So to pull the logic 0 and to make it logic 1, this D minus and D plus lines are used. And general, this is Type A connectors and Type B connectors will be having the color code of the individual line. So this 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, wires, you can check it out, that lines are coded by this different colors: red, white, green, and black. Type A, Type B connectors I have already shown you. These are the another way of representing the same thing. Let me show you Type C type of connector. So Type C type of connector, can see that there are many lines or wires on this one. On one side you can find there are 12, so 24 lines are there in Type C USB connectors. Basically, as I said, it has two pairs of TX and RX. So you can see here high speed data transfer part TX and RX are there. And similarly, one more set will be available here. They are called as a secondary high speed data transfer TX and RX. Okay, so mainly because of these two pairs, the speed is been doubled. And the general original USB 2.0 interface, you can see here that one is available as D minus and D plus E. Okay, so here it is cable power for providing a high speed power, high speed charging and all. More power to deliver out. We are having this particular lines here. Okay, this is about this USB Type C type of connector. Maximum distance of the cable length. So maximum useful distances where using this different USBs, how much we can connect is that USB 1.1, the maximum length, or 1.0 or 1.1, the maximum length of the cable was up to 3 meters only. For USB 2.0, it has increased to up to 5 meters. That means you can connect two devices using USB cable of 2.20 USB, or up to which can be separated up to 5 meters of length. USB 3.x, there the distance again reduced to 3 meters, and now the super speed plus and onwards USB 4 type of your USB technology or serial communications. There the cable length limit is 0.8 meters, so less than a meter it is. And that because of that short length only, the faster transfer rates can be achieved and more power delivery can be achieved. Mainly it is for providing more power delivery to make it that 100 wattage charging. As we have seen one of the features in that USB 4 features. Few images which to make you understand about the USB 2 and USB 3 that you can check it out. Earlier I was referring to that blue colored thing for the USB 3.0. So this USB 3.0 and that 4 different slots are for the USB 2.0 which are coded as black. It is coded as blue. Blue color is used for indicating that it's USB 3.0. And obviously after that when we got this Type C type of connectors, okay, and these are the Type C type of USB 3.2 and 3.1, 3.2 type of connectors here. And here we are having USB 4. This symbol, Thunderbolt symbol, you can check it out to make it understand that it is a USB 4 Type C. Features of USB 4 Type C already we have seen it. Okay. So that is all for this today's lecture. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.